Your
Yeah.
pivot was intentional,
Mm-hmm.
and you wanted to get another degree to kind of not just to add to your credentials, but to actually learn more about the
Yeah.
industry that you wanted to go into. But then you stayed for a PhD.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that? Why was that? Because that's an additional, at least 3 years, sometimes 4 years. I mean, we know that you are making great use of your time here with the Oxford China Lab as well. But why did you decide to really go into academia with such force and so much time commitment, energy?
So I think I came here for my master's degree at the Oxford Internet Institute, which we were freshers in the same year.
Yeah, we were.
Yes.
Cute.
I wasn't a fresher. I was in the depth, the peak midwinter of my PhD.
Oh,
But you're just the cool older kid.
Oh yeah, sure. You're the mature older one. That's I'm the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Like all my friends are graduating now. I'm like, this is what you're gonna be. Yeah, don't do it. But yeah.
Now that's me.
Exactly. So yeah, you get to
haunt Balliol Manor, Hollywood Manor.
Oh, that's crazy how time is just flying by.
I know.
Wait, what year are you in for your PhD now?
So I'm in my second year of the DPhil.
Okay.
So I did the master's then. I took a year out to build the Oxford China Policy Lab, and I wrote a book.
That's crazy.
I wrote a book. It is not. It's basically the Oxford China briefing book, which is trying to help educate government officials and other decision makers on like basics they need to know about China, how it approaches policy, the economy, foreign policy, as like a very accessible training tool. So that's something I did in my year between the master's and the DPhil, and a bunch of other projects, which definitely helped me develop my research ideas that have kind of been there. What I'm working on for my DPhil now, it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm sacrificing these years of my life to do this degree, to get this credential. Like it's kind of how I'm processing my time in this field. I almost feel like my DPhil is my therapy now.
Yeah.
But it's such a fraught space, especially when we get in, U.S.-China relations as a space. It fluctuates a lot. It's been a very tense number of years. I definitely was there for kind of peak tensions, and then during COVID. But then you add AI and all of the chaos of the field into the mix, and it's becoming such a competitive space, both between the US and China, but also kind of within ecosystems. And I am trying to channel like existing in all of these spaces into doing really, really strong work of like, how do I make sense of the world and this field as it's changing? How do I kind of develop an internal compass of how I want to go about my career moving forward? And so that approach has really shaped how I'm doing the DPhil. And it's kind of like, I have so much fun with it. It feels like my hobby now that OCPL is really up and running.
New.
It's been very intentional. And I've tried to like do my DPhil work in beautiful spaces or with a great cup with a great cappuccino.
Well, I was going to ask you that because the Kayla I met in 2021 is a very different Kayla to you sitting opposite me right now. That Kayla was incredibly stressed. Yes. Always looked great, by the way, in workout gear, like looking hot. But what changed? What you mentioned that now you have this reverence to your work. But what was the journey to that point?
Necessity, health conditions that develop. Like stress takes such a toll on your physical and mental health. As you will all know, we all experience this, and I think like a series of wake-up calls, in terms of both physical and mental health, of just like I don't want to be that person, and the person that I think needs, the type of people that I think need to exist in these fields are the type of person who are like deeply in touch with who they are as a person. They take care of themselves, they take care of the people around them. Me in peak stress state was not at all that. And to some extent, getting through, an intense master's degree is definitely necessary, but it's not. Trying to pivot into how do I build a career and do what I want in the field that I want to be in and worked so hard to be in, but maintain kind of a core of who I am and make sure that I like that person. And I think I continue to have these like mini wake-up calls as I go along, or like reckonings, And I think that's inevitable because there's so many great opportunities, but there are also so many challenging situations where you have to like, how you show up each day actually does define who you are, but and it's in the little moments in the day-to-day of how you go about things. So I'm trying to be very intentional about, first of all, taking care of myself so I can do high quality work and not just be in reactive mode to all of these, especially AI space in policy and in the technical side. It moves so quickly. And if I think everyone, myself included, it's like natural to be in this, oh, I have to move really quickly. I have to do all of the things that come up to keep up. And I think that is, I'm finding, especially as I sometimes get caught up in that, I really don't think that's the answer. Is, okay, how can we use various AI tools to improve the quality of our work, improve the speed of our work? But if we are like losing touch with ourselves in the process, including in trying to be at the top of that field, like what is it for? And that's kind of like a core paradox that I see with the philosophy of what is AI and what does it mean for society and humanity.
I remember that you said you have a mentor or a person who guides you through this kind of self-discovery, but also grounding yourself in what's actually important and not getting distracted with all these latest trends and news, whether it's US-China relations or the latest thing coming out of AI, the scandals or the developments. Who is that person and how important have they been in your life, and how important is it generally to have someone like a mentor who is like, no, Kayla, you need to focus.
Yeah. Okay, so actually a lot of people in my life will tell me, be less focused. I kind of have the opposite. I've just been I sometimes get laser focused to the point of it being a bit detrimental. And so I actually have a lot of I think it definitely takes a village when it comes to mentorship and like people guiding you. And I'm very fortunate to have like a whole range. I think what you're referring to, I do work with an executive coach, which has been so transformational.
Can you tell us a bit more about what an executive coach is?
Yes. Well, they can take so many forms, and I think there are a lot of ones out there that will like tell you this is how you should act, this is how you climb a corporate ladder or something. I think the way that I work with mine is very different. It's very self-guided. Like she works with me to kind of like cultivate accountability mechanisms for goals that I have, or helping me think more ambitiously, not so much in the sense of like, oh, I need to accomplish this, specific worldly achievement, but like how do I conceptualize who I want to be and how I can be that person in a way that actually like works for me as a person. And she focuses a lot on kind of the concept of getting women into the rooms where decisions are made, big business deals are done, important kind of international.
We need her on this podcast.
We do. She's amazing. Katie is the best.
Katie, come through.
Yes. And how do we first of all get women into those rooms? But I think so much of what I think is so unique about what we're doing together is how do you actually become the version of yourself that you most want in that room? Because I think in the policy and government spaces I've been, and now seeing how academic careers play out, it's like, sure, a lot of us do have what it takes to climb the ladder, to be at the top of whatever field that is, but do you like yourself at the end of the day? Is that it's like that was me speaking to myself more than anyone else, and it's knowing I could jump through X hoops to get to a specific place in leadership, and not kind of having this sense of, I don't know that I want to be the person that those hoops will make me. And so that is a lot of the stuff I think about with her in a very, like, we kind of go very high level, a bit woo-woo, a bit spiritual, but then we also think very granularly of like how, okay, now that I'm stepping into this, like, I am the director of an organization that I've built and it's taking off and it's really exciting. And now that we're able to hire other people for a team, how do I really step into like a director mindset, which is not something that I think we as women are often socialized to do, both in terms of seeing yourself as such, but also like, how do you get into the practice of delegating things? What do you delegate? And getting quite granular about, okay, setting this vision up top, but then breaking it down into manageable steps that I might not kind of see on my own in the busy day-to-day of it.
How did you know that you need an executive coach? What was that decision? Because I've not heard of this before. It sounds fascinating and incredibly useful.
Yeah.
What was that like? How did you figure out that this was right for you?
I fell into it a little bit in that at the end of my master's degree, I did this workshop that put Katie and I in touch. And at that time, I was wrapping up my master's thesis. It was very early days of starting OCPL with my co-founder Scott, and very exciting times. But I think coming from where I came from in small town Wisconsin, being literally told as a child throughout my education, oh, like you don't have what it takes to definitely not go to an Ivy League school, but even like a 4-year university, and then ending up somewhere like Oxford. And definitely there were a lot of like internal intellectual confidence things that I needed to work through. So I started out doing a couple of sessions with her on that to try to get on top of it so I could actually like finish my master's thesis on time and in a quality way, because it was really, really impacting me. And I think what the breakthrough thing that she helped me get to at that moment that has been kind of like the permanent breakthrough, hopefully more to come, but realizing like this is a wonderful institution and it served many of us very, very well, has its flaws as well, many, but it is not set up, all of these institutions, whether that's Oxford, other elite universities, governments, major corporations, they're not set up to further the success of someone like me, or like realizing that they're not built to do so. And so realizing that, it was like, okay, they measure for very specific types of intelligence. I can like force myself to perform well enough on my stats exam to try and fit into that and jump through that hoop. But I know like what I actually have to offer and what feels good to kind of bring to the table, bring to the world is not that. But it's not actually explicitly valued or rewarded in this institution. How can I, first of all, kind of recognize the other forms of intelligence that I have, whether that's like organizational strategy or, relational intelligence or emotional intelligence. But there's so many different types that, this institution or my master's degree and the course evaluations were not designed to measure. And realizing that I think that breaking that down was such a huge moment in knowing, okay, not only, I think it's one thing to say, oh, you can't rely on like external signals of success. You have to develop it for yourself. But like, it doesn't really mean that much until you kind of feel breakdowns of it that make sense to you. And that was this for me. So I think that really helped me step into kind of taking stock of what I think my talents and strengths are, and then try and channel that into outlets and outputs that match that.
Did you find realizing that helped with the sort of anxiety and stress and maybe a bit of imposter syndrome? Did that sort of help you with your journey, or was there a bit more sort of to it?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped. And throughout this process, that was like the beginning of starting OCPL,
which is
Oxford China Policy Lab. Yes. And that became an outlet for a lot of these things. And my co-founder, like, very supportive, and like we worked together in like creative ways of just like bouncing ideas off of each other. You don't need a perfect draft to send, a draft report to your team. Just kind of like keep things moving, and that as an output or outlet for the different kinds of like talents and intelligence I wanted to bring out more. It just felt so good to like build this thing. And I think that is so core to why Oxford China Policy Lab exists. Is I was frustrated during my master's degree of I wasn't learning exactly what I thought I would learn. And I definitely found the courses to be definitely very challenging, but it didn't quite match up in terms of what I wanted to get out of it. And then kind of the assessments of it, I didn't
some of it can feel outdated as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I needed this outlet for a number of reasons. And it's just been so exciting the whole way. Scott and I, and now our growing team, we do this because we find it extremely meaningful and fun, and we try to do it in ways that work for us as people, that it feels expansive to do this work. So
you started as 2 people, and then now you're a team of...
Oh, it's very tough to count. I think we have about 6 people now in our core team, and we have just taken on a fellowship cohort of over 15 people to start in January.
Wow. So that's grown massively in such a short amount of time. Is this uptick in interest in AI, China relations? Like, what would you sort of credit to this sort of like wild growth and success?
A couple of things. I think we have we're very clear on our mission, and it means different things to different audiences, but at its core, it's like US-China relations have a massive impact on not just each country, but the world at large. Yeah. We need to put more effort into understanding this, and also like respecting the role and perspective of third countries, third parties, and people stuck in the middle. And then we have a very strong tech angle, but not exclusive, with AI being a big thing. So yes, I think there's definitely, undoubtedly, a huge growth in interest in US-China AI relations. But I also think that there were so many people interested in these topics already at Oxford, but we didn't have a place or kind of community to gather, because it's such an interdisciplinary topic and set of topics. And so you have people from all different departments throughout the university that are working on an angle of this. And we just benefit so much from talking to each other. Like, I was at the OII, still am, the Oxford Internet Institute. Scott, my co-founder, was in the International Relations program, and just that crossover was huge. And now our fellows cohort, I think we have almost 9 different departments represented. Wow. So really embracing interdisciplinarity, which has its own challenges,
and they all work in the kind of US-China relations, that kind of focus, or is it more AI?
It's a range, but everyone is definitely doing something related to US-China relations, and at least a third of the cohort will be very AI focused, a third broader like tech and infrastructures, export controls. The final group is more kind of systemic considerations, whether that is looking at China's Belt and Road Initiative or international financial institutions, or public opinion globally around US-China relations. So trying to take a very systemic approach to these things and create a cohort of people that will have so much to learn from each other, from different departments and disciplines, from different countries, from different like fields and career goals and perspectives. So hoping that, it's my huge focus at the moment is getting this off the ground to start in January. It's our 3rd year technically, but we're scaling up so much this year.